and I just put the microphone as close to the F-hole here as possible, and it just got like a really like creaky, really close kind of woody sound.
I record it with 2 amps in stereo, which I pretty much always do.
I also just enjoy the adventure of messing with the strings until it sounds cool.
I recorded everything, like I plugged the guitar in just on this phone.
There's a lot of ways to produce guitars. Tell me if this has ever happened to you. You write an incredible song on guitar, but the second you go to record and produce it, the guitars just don't sound right. So then you go and look up how to record guitars, like insert artist. One dude tells you one thing, another idiot tells you another thing. Yep, guilty as charged. So then you give up and you decide that your microphone isn't good enough, or you just don't know how to mix guitars that well yet. Well, by the end of this video, I want to make sure that never happens to you again. I'm going to take you through every guitar production technique that I know and use on a daily basis as a full-time producer for indie artists. This will give you a toolkit that you can use to make your guitars sound great, no matter the genre or gear. We'll briefly touch on the basics like recording techniques and processing for guitars, but the majority of this video is going to be spent on more advanced and creative production and layering techniques, because I feel like people just don't talk about these enough. And to make it as digestible as possible, I've broken it down into 5 categories or levels of guitar production. We're going to start with the simplest techniques, which are still easy to forget about or overlook, and end with the more niche kind of secret sauce stuff. Even if you're a master of guitar production, I promise there's at least something in this video that you've never tried before. So without further ado, here are the 5 levels of indie guitars. So first up, I know this is going to be shocking, but it's going to be a single-tracked guitar. But what you're about to see is that before we even get into any of the layering techniques, we already have like a billion different options. So let's talk about the most obvious thing, which is like the guitar itself. I'm going to be using a Taylor GS Mini with Koa tone wood. The next part of the equation is, of course, the microphones that you're using. So in this video, I'm going to be using Shure KSM 137s. They're small diaphragm condenser mics. These are great for picking up a lot of high-end detail, and they're very commonly used on acoustic guitar recordings. You'll see, of course, I have 2 of these mics. One of the huge things that in a single track guitar will change the sound is whether you're tracking in mono or in stereo. I personally am a huge fan of recording guitars in stereo. I just think it has so much more like tonal depth and stuff. But don't take my word for it, I'll show you. Now, a very common thing when you're recording acoustic guitars is click bleed. So like you can hear the metronome in the recording. Something that I really like to do that really helps with this, I find, is actually just putting an EQ on the click. So instead of I find you can still hear it quite well, but it's just those high-end frequencies that the microphone picks up, so this kind of gets around that issue pretty well. Okay, so I've written a part that has a strummed and a finger-picked variation. I'm going to record both of those using a few different recording techniques just to show how many options there are even with a single-tracked guitar. And one thing I'm barely going to even cover in this video is microphone technique. I'm just going to point my microphones at the 12th fret, which is a very standard mic technique, but there is no one right way to mic a guitar. You can go closer, you can go further away. I'm going to keep about a foot of distance personally. Changing your positioning is like EQing the guitar before even touching an EQ. It can be very powerful. All right, let's do it. Now I'm going to record the finger-picked variation in mono. Cool, now I'm going to record the exact same parts in stereo just to show you the difference of the sound. By the way, as hard as I tried, I couldn't include every single possible technique in this video. So instead I put together a completely free PDF. It has every single technique in this video in a super organized, easy to read and digest format, as well as a ton of bonus techniques that I use all the time in my production work that I didn't get to include in this video. It's totally free, and I designed it to be an incredibly handy thing to just have around and be able to reference when you need that inspiration or creative spark. That's kind of the purpose of it. So check that out, first link in the description. All right, it is now late at night. I went out for dinner and spilled balsamic vinegar on my shirt, which is why I'm wearing new clothes. So here we have the single track possibilities. Basically, we have the picked and the strum parts, mono, stereo, DI. I've also recorded a vocal. This is a very small part of a song that I've written. So you've heard this part already, but first off, I want to show you just the difference in the sound quality between the mono, the stereo, and the DI parts. So I'll use the picked version to show you that.
Talk to me,
know that something's hurting. Talk to me. I know that something's hurting. Talk to me. I know that something's hurting.
So for me, the width and the detail and kind of the tonal depth of the stereo recording just kind of blows the others out of the water. The DI is cool in certain contexts. It has like a very specific sound that if you like harness it well, it can be really interesting. And I personally find mono is great if you are layering stuff up and you're multi-tracking the guitars. For a single-tracked guitar, usually feel like you want to go stereo. We're not going to talk much about processing in this video because a big takeaway that I want you guys to get from this video is that honestly very little of this sound is going to be a result of processing. It's going to be a result of the guitar you're using, the way you're recording it, and the way you're layering it, first and foremost. But that being said, I do some very simple processing with my guitars usually. An EQ curve that looks something like this, depending on your mic technique, you can often get a little boomy, depending on your guitar as well. So yeah, here I'm cutting everything around 60 hertz, a little bit of a dip here, kind of in the 200-ish range, and then yeah, a little boost around 2K. Don't always do this. Felt nice in this one, and then yeah, a little bit extra high end. And I love an 1176 compressor on guitars, typically a pretty low ratio, 4 or 8, something like that.
Something's hurting.
Somewhere around 3 dB of gain reduction I aim for. Just gives a little more consistency in terms of the volume and just lends a bit of the character of whatever compressor you're using. And lastly, I'll sidechain these guitars to a reverb send. I'm a big fan of this subtle acoustic preset on the reverb realm.
Talk to me. I know that something's
Nothing crazy, just a little bit of space. For now, I'm going to use the stereo picked. I'm going to rename these to guitar left and right. The second layering technique is the double tracked guitar. Shocking again, I know, but I want to change the way that you think about double tracking forever. Now that we've gotten through a lot of like the technical stuff in the single track section, I want to start getting into some nerdy layering techniques and hopefully show you something that you've never come across before. The first thing I'm going to do though, you definitely have come across before, because I am just going to double track this exactly the same way.
talk to me. I know that something's hurting. Vacancy.
So this is a standard double-tracked guitar, pretty much exactly the same thing on both sides, but of course there's little kind of discrepancies in my performance and all that. And yeah, it sounds lovely, and in a lot of pop music and kind of more hi-fi indie folk and stuff, this is sort of the standard for a main guitar part. However, double tracking can be a lot more than just this. Let's start with some really simple stuff. Right now, it's panned fully left and fully right. We can mess around with that. One of these sides can be panned just a little bit to the left. So all of a sudden there's some variation in terms of how it's panned. We can pan them closer to the center as well.
Talk to me.
Now the next thing you can do, which I think is incredibly underrated, is instead of having the exact same thing in the left and right channel, you can actually just play the part differently.
Talk to me. I know that something's hurting.
So that's just a kind of softer variation on the same chords, and it's not playing any of the lower strings, so we're going to get more of the bassy sound in the left ear than more of that sort of high plucky stuff in the right ear.
Talk to me. I know that something's hurting.
Minus my poor playing. Pretty cool. The next thing you can do is literally just play the same part on a different guitar. Now I know not everyone has the luxury of multiple guitars, but if you have some old guitar lying around that you don't use for whatever reason, there are many ways that you can find a use for it in your productions. For example, this is a really nice guitar, but I just never really loved the tone of it, to be honest. And what I did was I actually put this in Nashville tuning. So Nashville tuning is where you take a 12-string set, which has 6 regular strings, and then it also has 6 strings where the bottom 4 strings are tuned an octave up. And if you string a 6-string guitar with just the high strings from a 12-string set, you get Nashville tuning. You'll hear why it's so cool when I record, but basically this 4th string here, the G string, is the highest string. on the guitar. And what that means is you can play the exact same thing and it literally sounds like a different part.
Talk to me. I know that something's hurting.
I'm probably not going to use it on this one, but it's a really fascinating sound and a great way to kind of give a new life to an old guitar that you have lying around. And I've definitely been focusing mostly on acoustic guitars in this video, but if you have an electric, don't forget that you can pair electric guitars with acoustic guitars, and sometimes it can get really cool results. I'm going to use Vintage Vibe by Fine Classics plugins as the amp sim in this super great amp sim. And if you want 20% off, then hit the second link in the description. I have a discount code for you guys. Here we go.
Talk to me. I know that's talk to me.
I think that's really cool with the electric guitar, a bit more central, the acoustic guitar fully to the left. But yeah, as fun as all those ideas are, for this one, I'm probably just gonna stick to the classic, simple double tracked. And that is largely to leave space for all the other cool stuff that we're gonna do. So technique number 3 in the guitar layering arsenal is rhythm guitars. You've probably run into that problem before where you know that the song needs some kind of rhythmic layer, but like if you try adding drums, or even if sometimes if you try adding a shaker, it just feels like too much. I think a really important function of guitars in a production can be to tie the lead guitar into the percussion. So I'll show you a few ways to do that. So the first method is a steady picked layer. So literally playing like usually 8th or 16th notes with a pick. Typically I'll double track this and pan this left and right. Then I'll bring it low enough in the mix that it doesn't really stand out, but you still just kind of hear that chugging rhythm underneath all the rest of the guitars. This example we're working on right now is pretty mellow, so this is gonna be a little intense. But this is great for choruses, when you wanna make the chorus kind of stand out a bit more, second verses, bridges, that kind of thing. Just when you wanna really add energy underneath everything. Anyways, it'll sound a little crazy, but let's do it anyways. Real simple, pan him left and right, and then bring him way down.
Talk to me. I know.
Honestly, not so bad. It's a really nice undercurrent. But if that does feel like a bit too much for you, this next tip is gonna blow your mind. So I saw this one video of Adrianne Lenker performing one of her songs, I forget which one, with a paintbrush. So she was literally playing the chords and strumming with a paintbrush. It's actually kind of crazy and it sounds amazing. Let me show you.
Talk to me.
Woohoo! All right. I typically don't double track this. I don't know why. You could.
Something's hurting.
Here's all of them together.
Vacancy.
So all of a sudden, if we were trying to kind of grow this into a bigger section, we wanted this rhythmic backbone, instead of even having any percussion, it's the guitars that are providing it, and it just creates this really cohesive sounding production. Technique number 4 is melody. It can be really easy to get caught up just strumming chords on a guitar, but obviously it's a great melodic instrument as well. And I'll show you 2 ways to do melody. One is in a double track situation like this, to just kind of have one pretty distinct guitar melody. The way I think of this is almost being kind of like a response to the vocal.
Vacant. I know my thoughts are.
Instantly hearing that, I want to hear it on electric. I want to really go crazy with the processing on that.
Vacancy. I know my thoughts are.
I had no plans to put electric melodies in this song, but that's just me getting carried away. I guess these 2 plugins, which you can get for 20% off at the second link in the description, are just too fun to play with. Yeah, there are plenty more ways that you can integrate melodies into your guitar arrangements. Those will all be in the PDF. So finally, number 5 is textural layering. So this is where you can really let your creativity go wild. I'll just show you a few of my favorite things to do. So here's the first technique. Just find a really simple like arpeggio. I'm just gonna do like a 2-note arpeggio that works really well over the chord progression. I'm gonna record that in really quick.
Talk to me. I know that something's hurting.
It's a pretty cool layer on its own, but the plan is not to leave it as is. I find those really high arpeggios, they tend to take really well to creative processing. My favorite way to do this is with this plugin called Beam. No discount code, unfortunately. But Lunacy Audio, I love this plugin. Feel free to reach out. It's basically a creative playground with delay, reverb, and granulation. It's pretty cool.
Talk to me. I know that something's hurting. Talk to me. Something's hurting.
Man, that's beautiful. I love that. So yeah, the technique there is really just playing a super simple arpeggio and then just using that as the basis for sound design. It basically turned into like a pad, right? And that was the intention all along. That was my master plan. So another friggin' awesome texture trick is with one of these beautiful guys, an EBow. They're usually $100, $150, and it's pretty cool what they can do. Usually they're used on electric guitars to create a sustained sound. But if you've ever heard Flume by Bon Iver, Justin Vernon does this really cool thing where he sort of rattles the EBow against the string. That's the sound that's all over Flume. I love these kind of layers, so let's add some of those in. It's pretty cool. Now, if I know a thing or two about you guys that watch my videos on YouTube, it's that right now you're going, well, I don't have an EBow, meh. So, sorry. So I want to introduce you to your new best friend, a coin. This is a 100 yen coin from Japan, and something pretty miraculous happens when you scratch it against the strings of an electric guitar, or I guess you could do it with an acoustic if you like drown it out in distortion and reverb. When you use this crunchy setting on the Fine Classics pedal board, then I'll pull up Realm, more Realm, reverb's your best friend here. That's a pretty cool sound, and it only cost 100 yen, or I guess the value of whatever currency you use. Now, of course, 97% of the time, you're not going to use all of these techniques combined with each other. Too much of a good thing and all that, but just for the heck of it, let's listen to the double-tracked leads, the two rhythm guitars with the pick, the paintbrush, the electric lead, and the two sound design layers.
Talk to me.
Honestly, I think without the rhythm guitars, it's actually not super heinous.
Talk to me. I know that something's hurting. Vacancy. I know my thoughts are lurking.
We got ourselves the start of a pretty cool arrangement there. So let me know, have you done any of these techniques before? Have you done all of these techniques before? Did I fail in my mission? And once again, if you want to reference all these ideas without having to come back to this video again, then hit that top link in the description to get the PDF completely for free. And if at this point you're thinking, man, you know what? That's a really cool 8-bar loop that you just made, and you'd rather see an example of how all this stuff can be applied in the context of an actual song, then watch this video next, where I take an artist's actual real demo and I use tons of these techniques to bring it to life into a beautiful, lush indie folk song.